Imagine two queens, one throne, and a kingdom divided. This is the story of Elizabeth I and Mary, Queen of Scots. A rivalry so intense it tore a nation apart and ended in blood. In the mid-1500s, England was a land at war with itself. Some prayed in Latin, loyal to the Pope in Rome. Others, following the Reformation, prayed in English. When Elizabeth took the throne in 1558, she inherited this chaos. Her father, Henry VIII, had broken with the Catholic Church. Her half-sister, Bloody Mary Tudor, had tried to drag England back to Catholicism through fire and force. Elizabeth restored Protestantism, but for half her people, their hearts remained in Rome. And at the center of this storm stood Mary Stuart, the Catholic Queen of Scotland. To the Catholic world, Elizabeth was a heretic, an illegitimate child born from a scandalous marriage. The real heir, they believed, was Mary, Queen of Scots, the granddaughter of Henry VIII's own sister. This meant Mary wasn't just a rival. She was a living, breathing claim to Elizabeth's crown, and Elizabeth knew it. Elizabeth was cautious, a master of words and political games, always keeping her enemies guessing. Mary was her polar opposite, passionate, bold, and emotional. Crowned Queen of Scotland as a baby, and later Queen of France by marriage, she was everything Elizabeth's enemies wanted in a ruler: elegant, educated, and deeply Catholic. For years, Elizabeth refused to name an heir, but everyone saw Mary's shadow growing longer. Every Catholic rebellion whispered her name. Every foreign plot centered around her. For every priest who dreamed of an England returned to Rome, Mary was their beacon of hope. It was only a matter of time before this rivalry turned deadly. Mary's life began like a fairy tale but twisted into a nightmare. After her husband, the King of France, died, she returned to Scotland at just 18, a widow and a queen. But her homeland had changed. Scotland had embraced Protestantism. Her subjects distrusted her faith and her lords despised her French connections. Her next move proved to be her undoing. She married Lord Darnley. He was arrogant, violent, and unstable. When Mary became pregnant, Darnley grew paranoid. In a truly horrifying act, he and his men murdered Mary's close advisor, David Rizzio, right in front of her, stabbing him over 50 times as she screamed in terror. Months later, Darnley himself was found dead, strangled after a mysterious explosion destroyed his house. The rumors flew instantly. Was Mary involved? Then, in a move that shocked everyone, she married the main suspect in her husband's murder, the Earl of Bothwell. To her enemies, it was a confession. To her Protestant subjects, it was an unforgivable scandal. The Scottish lords rebelled. Mary was captured and forced to give up her throne to her infant son, James. From a queen, she became a fugitive. In 1568, Mary fled across the border into England, seeking refuge with her cousin, Elizabeth. She believed that as fellow queens, surrounded by treacherous men, they shared a common bond. But Elizabeth didn't see kinship. She saw danger. Mary was a queen without a throne, but she was also a rallying flag for every Catholic in England who wanted Elizabeth gone. Protecting her was a risk. Sending her back to Scotland meant certain death. So Elizabeth chose a cruel middle path: imprisonment. For 19 long years, Mary was a prisoner in velvet gowns, moved from one castle to another, watched day and night. The two queens never met face to face. They didn't need to. They waged a cold war through spies, letters, and coded plots. Even in captivity, Mary refused to surrender. She became the beating heart of the Catholic resistance. Letters were smuggled in and out, hidden in beer barrels or under candle wax. Elizabeth's spy master, Sir Francis Walsingham, built one of the world's first intelligence networks just to watch her. Year after year, he intercepted messages and uncovered conspiracies, and they all pointed to one person: Mary. The Northern Rebellion of 1569 tried to free her. The Ridolfi Plot of 1571 aimed to put her on the throne. Each time, Mary denied any involvement. But in 1586 came the final straw: the Babington Plot. A young Catholic noble, Anthony Babington, wrote letters openly discussing Elizabeth's assassination and Mary's rise to power. Walsingham's spies intercepted them. They decoded them, and they traced them directly back to Mary. This was the proof he had been waiting for. For Elizabeth, It was the moment she had dreaded for decades. She had executed rebels and traitors before, but never a fellow crowned queen. To kill God's anointed monarch was to cross a sacred line. If one queen could be executed, any queen could be. Her council demanded action. The plots wouldn't stop as long as Mary lived. Finally, in February 1587, Elizabeth signed the death warrant. Then, in a final tragic twist, she claimed she never meant for it to be sent. But it was too late. On the morning of February 8, 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots, walked calmly into the great hall of Fotheringhay Castle. She wore crimson, the color of a martyr. "I die a true woman to my religion, a true queen and a true Scotswoman," she declared. The executioner raised his axe. The first blow missed. The second struck deep. With the third, her head was severed. When he lifted it by the hair, her auburn wig fell away, revealing short graying hair beneath. A small dog, her faithful pet, crept out from under her skirts, whimpering. Elizabeth received the news in silence. She locked herself away for days, blaming her advisors. But the world knew the truth. One queen had destroyed another. So why did Mary hate Elizabeth? Because Elizabeth represented everything that led to her downfall. The Protestant faith that cost her a throne, the cousin who imprisoned her for almost 2 decades, the woman who signed her death warrant. But perhaps deeper still, Mary hated Elizabeth for succeeding where she had failed. Elizabeth ruled alone, outsmarted her enemies, and died as one of England's greatest monarchs. Mary was consumed by passion, betrayal, and tragedy. But in death, Mary achieved something she never could in life. Her son, James VI of Scotland, would eventually become James I of England, uniting the 2 crowns that had torn the cousins apart. Her bloodline would rule where Elizabeth's ended. And Elizabeth, who ruled for 45 years, died childless, haunted by the ghost of the rival she could never escape. One queen survived by denying love, the other died for it. And together, they created one of history's most powerful and tragic stories. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into history's greatest rivalries. See you next time.